Today we are reviewing our Unit 2 on functions so that we can get ready and take our test next week. So this week is going to be a week of review. First we are going to go over page 100 to 102 in your textbook. Then you'll need your practice book because we'll be going over our practice book, page 111 to 120 as well. On page 100 in your textbook, let's take a look at number 1. The problem says, which equation defines a linear function? Remember, with our linear functions, we have to make sure that there are no, anything above a 1 exponent in our equation is not going to be a function. So we know that there's an x squared here. That means that that is not a function. There's an x squared here and a y squared here. So we know that that's not going to be a function. And we know that there's exponents here, x squared and y squared. That's not going to be a function. So this x here has a first power, which means it has its own identity. So your answer for number 1 is going to be letter A. Number 2 says point A is plotted on the coordinate plane below, which is right there. Determine the location of point D given the following criteria. Point D has integer coordinates. The graph of line AD is not a function, and shade in the point that could represent point D. So this problem is about this coordinate plane right here, and what I have to do is I have to determine the location of point D. These are my facts, and this is what I need to look at in order to figure out what point D is. So point D has an integer coordinates, and the graph of line AD is not a function. Every time it says line AD, that means you're making a line with a point of A and ending at a point of D. So what we're doing is we're either shading in one of these spots here so that we could represent point D. So one of these unshaded areas is point D. Point D has to have integer coordinates. That means that it has to be one of these numbers on this number line or one of these number lines. So it could be any one of these dots. The graph of line AD is not a function. So that means that my only possibility is having a line that goes up and down, because these are the only lines that are not functions. So you've got two possibilities. Here could be D, and also here could be D. And that's it. Alright, so let's try number 3. It says, which linear functions below have the same rate of change as one another? Select all that apply. So whenever we're looking at our tables, we're looking for our change in Y and our changes in X. So from here to here and here to here. Change from negative 21 to negative 9 is I added 12. From negative 9 to 3, I also added 12. On my X, I'm doing the same thing on the table from negative 2 to negative 6. How much did I add to get there? And same goes for 6 to 14. How much did I add to get there? And I know that I added 8. And I added 8 on the side. So it's a consistent 12. So I'm going to put that in my numerator. My rise over my run is going to go into my denominator. And then I'm going to simplify my fraction. 12/8 gives me 6/4, and I can again reduce that and simplify it to 3/2. Okay, with this equation, I have to move it. So it's going to become y equals 3x plus 1. I took my negative 3 out from over here to get my y alone. So the opposite of negative or subtracting 3 is adding 3, which gives me my 3x on the other side of the equal sign, plus I'm adding this positive 1 as well. So this becomes my slope-intercept form. This is my equation that we've been studying throughout this unit. Remember our y equals mx plus b? This is that slope-intercept form. So now I'm going to get this y alone, so I have to divide everything by 2 and divide by 2, so this cancels out and I get my y alone. Then I have 3x over 2, then I have 1/2. So remember, my slope is my m, so that makes 3 over 2, whoops. So that makes this slope also 3 over 2, just like my slope up here is 3 over 2 for letter A. So once again on C, I have a table, so I'm going to figure out how I got from my -7 to -4, and I know I added 3. Over here, -4 to -1, I also added 3. Over here, -13 to negative. So I have my rise, which is my top number in my fraction, so that gives me 3 over 4 over my run. So this answer's not it. The next one, letter D, has a change of 3/2, that's my M. And then on graphs, I just look for 2 points. My easiest ones are the ones that are on the X and Y axis. So I have a point here, and I have a point here, and I have to connect them. So I have to go up 1, 2, and then I move over 1, 2, 3. That gives me 2/3. All of the answers, D has 3 over 2, B has 3 over 2, and A has 3 over 2. They are all the same rate of change. 4 says, consider the 3 linear functions below. 1 has the table, 2 has our equation, and 3 has a graph. Compare the rates of change for the 3 linear functions. Which graph would have the steepest slope? Explain your answer. So what I'm doing here is I am looking for my rate of change from my table. So I'm going to look at y from 16 to 1, I subtracted 15. And from 1 to -19, I subtracted 20. Same goes for y for x over here. My change is -3. And here from 0 to 4, my change is adding 4. This table here, I'm putting 15, my rise, over my run, my 15, over my 3, which equals -5. Of 2, number 2, I'm going to have to rearrange it to my y equals mx plus b form, my slope-intercept. So my y equals, I'm going to add 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x over here to cancel it out. I'm going to bring my 2x over here on the other side of the equal sign along with my 10, so -y equals 2x plus 10. Then to get rid of that negative y on this side, I'm going to divide everything by -1 to get rid of that negative. -1 divided by -1. Slope 2 equals -2. And then for our last one, I'm just looking for 2 points. I'm going to look for 4 grid squares, for an example. So I start here, I went 1, 2, 3, and then I went over 1, 2, 3, 4. The slope for this graph is 3/4. And of these 3 examples, the steepest slope is slope 1, our table. And last, we're going to do number 5. While Jenny goes on vacation, she puts her 2 dogs in a kennel. She pays a flat fee of $20 per dog and then pays a certain amount of money each day for each dog. If she leaves the dogs for 5 days, the cost is $540. If she leaves the dogs for 7 days, the cost is $740. Write a linear function model to model the relationship between the number of days, x, we're going to call that x, at the kennel and the cost, y, for the dog. For one dog, we're going to show our work, and then we're going to answer part B. It says explain the meaning of the slope in the context of the problem. So first we ask ourselves, what is this problem about? It's about Jenny going on vacation, and she puts her 2 dogs in a kennel. Next, the problem's asking us to do 2 things. We're writing a linear function to model a relationship between the number of days, x, and the kennel and the total cost, y, for one dog. Then we're going to also explain the meaning of the slope in the context of the problem. We know she's going to pay a flat fee of $20 for each dog, and if she leaves the dog for 5 days, it's going to be $540. If she leaves for 7 days, it's going to cost $740. So let's set up our problem to write a linear function model. We're going to use our rise over run equation. 540 minus 40, because it's 2 dogs and it's $20 per dog, so it's going to be $40. Now I'm going to write it out in my ordered pairs. My ordered pairs, I have my y2, and my y1 over my x2 and my x1, and I set up my ordered pairs that way. So this is my y2, so this is going to be my x2, my x1 is 40, and my y1 is 40. Remember, when we're doing plots and coordinates, it's always x first and then it's y. So I have 500 over 700. Now I have to figure out the unit rate per day. So I'm going to put price over unit, so 500 for 5 days. That's going to give me $100 she has to pay. And then we have to do 700 over 7 days. That's going to tell me that she's going to be paying $100 per day. Split that in half. My y is going to equal $50 plus $20 because of those dogs. So Jenny's going to be paying $50. That x is going to be my days, so if she does 5 days, you put that 5 in that x, or if she does 7 days, you're going to put that 7 in that x, and then you're going to do that $20 fee because it's $20 a dog. So that means my slope, my m, is the rate of $50.